Welcome to English with TUNA, the daily English podcast that helps you speak naturally, confidently, and professionally. If you're learning English to grow your career, build international relationships, or simply express yourself better in business, you're in the right place.
In this week's series, we're focusing on business English, specifically how to communicate effectively with business partners and clients. Whether you're attending meetings, writing emails, or negotiating deals, strong communication skills in English can open doors around the world.
And today, we're starting with one of the most essential skills in professional life, how to start a conversation with a business partner. Because in business, the way you begin often shapes the rest of the relationship.
Part 1. Starting a professional conversation with a business partner.
Let's imagine this scenario. You're meeting a potential partner for the first time. It could be on a Zoom call, at a conference, or during a business trip. What do you say first?
Many learners start by saying, "Hi, how are you?" which is okay, but in business, we often use more purposeful greetings. For example, "Good morning, Mr. Lee. It's great to finally meet you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today." These openings sound polite and professional.
Absolutely. They show respect and set a positive tone. Now let's talk about small talk, because even in business, small talk is important.
Before jumping into work, native speakers often say things like, "How was your flight? Is this your first time in New York? How has your week been so far?"
Exactly. These questions help build connection. And if you're not sure what to say, here's a tip. Comment on something neutral or positive. For example, "I've heard great things about your company. Your latest product launch looked really impressive."
That shows you did some research, and it builds rapport. Let's go a bit deeper. After greetings and small talk, how do you transition into business topics?
Good question. You don't want to sound too direct or too slow. Try phrases like, "Shall we get started? Would now be a good time to go over today's agenda? Let me briefly outline what I'd like to cover today."
These phrases are polite and efficient. They move the conversation forward while keeping things smooth. One of my favorite transitions is, "Before we begin, is there anything you'd like to add?"
That shows flexibility and invites collaboration.
That's a good one. And once you start discussing the actual business, remember to use clear, professional language. Avoid casual slang or jokes unless you know the person well. Focus on being respectful, clear, and concise.
Yes, and here's a bonus tip. Watch your tone. In business English, being friendly but formal is ideal. You don't need to sound like a robot, but you also don't want to be too relaxed. Try phrases like, "I appreciate your insights on this. Let me know if you have any suggestions." That's a great point. I hadn't considered that.
And let's not forget about body language, especially in face-to-face or video calls. Maintain good posture, eye contact, and a calm facial expression. It adds confidence to your words, even if you're a little nervous inside.
Such a great reminder. One last thing, prepare in advance. Before the meeting, know who you're talking to, what the goals are, and have your key points ready. That preparation will help your English flow more naturally.
To summarize this part, start with a polite, confident greeting, use small talk to build connection, transition smoothly into business topics, stay professional in your tone and body language, prepare well so you can speak clearly and confidently.
This is just the beginning of our Business English series. In the next part, we'll talk about how to build trust and rapport with business partners, one of the most important soft skills in global communication.
So stay with us and get ready to level up your business conversations in English. See you in Part 2.
Part 2. Building Trust and Rapport in English. In Part 1, we learned how to start a professional conversation with a business partner. Now we go one step further. We're talking about how to build trust and rapport.
That's right. Starting strong is important, but relationships in business are built over time. And the secret ingredient is trust, especially when you're communicating across cultures or in your second language.
And let's be honest, building trust in another language can feel tricky. You want to sound professional, but also human. So today, we'll look at real phrases and strategies that help you connect and communicate more meaningfully in English.
Let's begin with one key point. People trust people they feel comfortable with. So your first goal is to create a friendly, respectful tone, even while talking business.
Yes, here are a few simple but powerful phrases that help show you're open, respectful, and cooperative. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. We really value your input. That's a great idea. Let's explore it further.
Phrases like these show you're listening, not just talking.
Exactly. Another way to build trust is to ask thoughtful questions. Instead of only presenting your own ideas, try, how does this align with your priorities? What challenges are you seeing from your side? These questions invite dialogue and show that you care about the other person's goals. And don't forget to show appreciation. It's simple, but a thank you can go a long way in business. Try saying, "Thanks for sharing that. It's really helpful. We appreciate the time you're investing in this." Gratitude builds trust, and it's a universal language.
That's so true. Another great tip, be honest but polite. If there's a problem or something you don't agree with, don't avoid it, but speak clearly and respectfully. For example, we may need to revisit that timeline. We want to make sure we deliver the best quality. I see where you're coming from, but may I offer another perspective?
Let's talk about consistency too. Trust isn't just built in one conversation, it's built over time through consistent communication. That means following up when you say you will, meeting deadlines, being clear and reliable in your emails and calls.
Yes, that consistency shows professionalism, and it builds your reputation. Another tip, match your communication style to your partners when possible. For example, if they use short, direct messages, respond in a similar style. If they're more formal, adjust your tone accordingly.
That's smart. It shows you're adaptable and respectful of their culture or habits. Now, if you're in a video meeting, don't forget that nonverbal communication still matters. Smiling, nodding when they speak, keeping eye contact, all of that builds rapport, even if you say very little.
Definitely. Let's also remember that humility goes a long way. If you make a mistake in English or don't understand something, it's okay to say, "Sorry, could you repeat that? Let me double check I understood correctly." This honesty actually builds more trust because it shows you care about accuracy.
I love that. And it also reminds us that building trust doesn't mean being perfect. It means being genuine, consistent, and respectful.
Let's recap what we've learned today. Use open, respectful language, ask thoughtful questions, show appreciation, be honest, polite, and consistent, adapt your tone and style, communicate with your whole self, not just your words.
Business relationships are not just about deals, they're about people. And trust is the foundation of every long-term partnership, no matter where you're from or what language you speak.
In Part 3, we'll continue our journey by learning how to ask questions and clarify details politely, a critical skill for avoiding misunderstandings and keeping your conversations productive.
So don't miss it. We're just getting started. See you in the next episode.
Part 3. Asking questions and clarifying details politely. In business communication, asking the right questions can be just as important as giving the right answers. But here's the key. How you ask questions can affect how people respond to you. Politeness and clarity are essential.
Absolutely. Many learners worry about sounding too direct or too informal when asking questions in English. The good news is there are many natural, polite ways to ask for information, and today we'll explore them together.
Let's start with one of the most common types of questions in business, gathering information. Instead of simply saying, "What is your price?" try, "Would you mind sharing your pricing structure? Could you walk me through your pricing model?" These are softer and more professional ways to ask the same thing.
That's a great point. These phrases use modal verbs like could, would, may, which are super useful for softening questions. Could you explain that in a bit more detail? Would it be possible to see a sample report? May I ask how your team approaches project timelines?
And remember, tone of voice matters too. Even a direct question can sound polite if said with a calm, respectful tone. Now, let's talk about clarifying information. Sometimes in meetings, things aren't 100% clear, especially if English isn't your first language. Here are some professional ways to ask for clarification. Just to make sure I understood correctly, are you saying that? So, if I'm hearing this right, your team prefers to deliver by Friday, correct? Could you elaborate a little more on that last point?
These phrases do two things at once. They show that you're listening carefully and that you want to avoid miscommunication, both of which build trust.
Exactly. And if you didn't catch something someone said, it's okay to ask. Just do it politely. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Would you mind repeating it? Could you say that one more time, a bit more slowly? I apologize, I'm not sure I understood the last part. One very professional trick is to take ownership of the confusion instead of blaming the speaker. So rather than saying, "You're unclear," try, "I might have missed something. Can you clarify what you meant by X?" Let's also touch on how to ask follow-up questions during discussions. When you want to dig deeper, try, "That's really interesting. Could you expand on that a bit more? Can you share an example to help me understand it better? How does that typically work in your organization?" And sometimes you'll want to check mutual understanding. This helps both sides stay aligned. Use phrases like, "So, just to summarize, we're looking at a delivery date of the 15th, is that right? Let me confirm I got this. You'll handle the logistics, and we'll manage the content, correct?" Let's talk briefly about tone again. Even in emails or messages, word choice makes a difference. Compare these two. "Send the report by Monday" versus, "Could you please send the report by Monday, if possible?" The second one is more polite and more likely to build goodwill.
Definitely. Business English is full of these little softeners. Some helpful ones include, "Would you be able to?" "Do you happen to know?" "I was wondering if."
Let's give a quick example of how a polite clarification can sound in a real conversation.
Sure.
A. We'll proceed with phase 2 next week. B. Thanks. Just to clarify, by next week, do you mean the week starting the 10th or the 17th? That's clear, respectful, and shows attention to detail.
And that kind of communication reduces errors and builds stronger working relationships, because people appreciate when you care enough to double-check.
Let's recap today's key phrases. Use soft modal verbs like could, would, may. Clarify with phrases like, "Just to make sure I understood." Ask for repetition politely. Confirm mutual understanding. Always keep your tone respectful and calm. When you master the art of polite questioning and clarification, your communication becomes clearer, smoother, and more professional. Part 4. Agreeing, disagreeing, and negotiating respectfully.
Disagreement is a natural part of business. No two companies or people will always see things the same way. But the real skill is knowing how to disagree and negotiate in English without damaging the relationship.
Yes, and for English learners, this can feel especially tricky. You don't want to sound rude or too direct, but you also need to express your ideas clearly and confidently.
So let's explore how to agree, disagree, and negotiate, all while keeping your communication respectful and professional.
Let's start with agreement. When you agree with someone in a meeting, don't just say, "Yes." Try to build on their idea. For example, "I completely agree, and I think we could also consider adding."
That makes perfect sense. In fact, we've seen similar results on our side.
These phrases show alignment while adding value to the conversation.
Exactly. Even a simple, "That's a great point," or "I like your approach," can help strengthen the relationship.
It shows you're engaged and positive.
Now let's look at the harder part, disagreeing. It's important to remember, disagreeing doesn't mean being negative or confrontational. It's about offering a different perspective politely. Here are some useful phrases. "I see your point, but I have a slightly different view." "That's an interesting perspective. May I offer another angle?" "I understand where you're coming from, though I'd like to raise a concern."
These are great because they soften the disagreement. You're not rejecting the other person. You're showing that you're open but thoughtful.
Yes, and you can always use the "yes and" or "yes but" strategy to keep things balanced. Yes, that could work, but we might need to consider the budget impact.
I agree in general, and I'd suggest we explore another option too. Now, let's talk about negotiation, another area where tone matters a lot. When you want to suggest a change, make a request, or offer a compromise, try phrases like, "Would it be possible to consider an earlier deadline? We were wondering if there's room to adjust the pricing slightly. Could we look at other options that might suit both sides?"
These sound collaborative. You're not demanding, you're opening the door to discussion.
Right. And if you're rejecting an offer, be sure to thank them first and then explain clearly but respectfully. For example, we appreciate your proposal. Unfortunately, the timeline may be too tight for our current capacity.
Thank you for the suggestion. It's a strong option, though it might not align with our current goals.
That kind of language keeps things professional and makes it more likely that both sides will stay open to further conversation.
Let's also talk about finding common ground, which is key in any negotiation. Use phrases like, maybe we can meet halfway by, what if we tried a trial period to see how it goes? How about we revisit this in 2 weeks after some initial feedback?
Those are excellent. Negotiation doesn't always mean one side wins and the other loses. Often, the best results come from creative compromise.
And if you're not sure what the other side is thinking, just ask. What's your view on this? How flexible are you on that point?
This invites openness and shows that you value their input.
Let's hear a quick example of a respectful disagreement and negotiation in action. Speaker 1 roleplay. Thanks for the proposal. I really like the structure. That said, I'm a bit concerned about the delivery timeline. Would it be possible to extend the launch by 1 week to ensure quality?
That's a fair point. We can be flexible if needed. Let me check with my team and get back to you.
That's a respectful, cooperative tone, and it keeps the door open. Here's a quick tip. In tense conversations, use neutral language. Avoid words like never, always, or wrong. Instead, say, there seems to be a difference in expectations. Let's explore a solution that works for both of us.
It's also okay to pause or take a break in a difficult negotiation. Say, let's take a moment to review this and come back with ideas.
Would it be all right if we follow up by email with a few alternatives? All of this helps you sound professional, calm, and in control, even when things don't go exactly how you planned.
So to sum, when you agree, disagree, or negotiate in English, use soft, respectful language, focus on shared goals, not conflict, be clear but kind, invite conversation, not confrontation.
These skills are essential for strong business communication, especially in English.
Coming up in Part 5, we'll explore how to write professional emails to partners, from setting the tone to choosing the right structure and expressions.
It's one of the most practical skills you'll use daily, so don't miss it. We'll see you in the next episode. Part 5. Handling misunderstandings or conflicts.
Even in the best business relationships, misunderstandings happen. Maybe a message was unclear, maybe expectations weren't aligned, or sometimes a real conflict appears. What matters most is how you respond.
Absolutely. And when you're using English as a second language, handling these situations can feel even more stressful. But here's the truth. With the right language and the right attitude, you can turn misunderstandings into opportunities to build trust.
Let's start with a common situation, a miscommunication by email or during a meeting. Maybe someone misunderstood a deadline or interpreted something the wrong way.
In these cases, staying calm and professional is key. Don't rush to blame. Instead, use phrases that acknowledge the issue without sounding aggressive. It seems there may have been some confusion about, I think we might have interpreted this differently. Let's clarify to make sure we're on the same page.
Exactly. These phrases show you're focused on solving the problem, not creating more tension. You can also take shared responsibility when appropriate.
I may not have explained that clearly. Let me try again. Perhaps we could have communicated this better on both sides.
That shows maturity, and it often encourages the other person to respond in a respectful way too.
Now let's look at another challenge, actual conflict. What if someone is upset? Maybe they feel let down or disagree strongly with a decision.
Here's where tone really matters. Start by acknowledging the other person's emotions, even if you don't agree.
I can see that this has caused frustration. I understand that this wasn't what you were expecting. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Then stay solution-focused. Ask polite questions to understand the real issue.
Can you help me understand what your main concern is? Would you mind sharing what specifically didn't meet expectations?
These questions keep the conversation constructive, and they show that you're not trying to win an argument, but solve a problem.
Right. And when it's your fault, take responsibility. Apologizing professionally doesn't make you look weak. It shows integrity. We sincerely apologize for the oversight.
I take full responsibility for the confusion. Let me assure you we're taking this seriously and we'll make it right.
And if it's a shared issue, try, let's work together to avoid this in the future. We appreciate your feedback. It helps us improve.
Let's give a quick example. Imagine a partner is upset about a missed deadline. We'll role play. We were expecting the files on Monday, but it's Wednesday and we haven't received anything. You're absolutely right, and we apologize for the delay. There was a miscommunication on our side. We're preparing the documents now, and you'll have them by this afternoon. Going forward, we'll make sure deadlines are confirmed in writing.
See how that response takes responsibility, apologizes clearly, and offers a solution. That's how you rebuild trust.
And sometimes misunderstandings come from cultural differences, like different ways of expressing urgency or disagreement.
That's true. In these cases, curiosity and patience go a long way. You can say, I'd love to understand how this is usually handled in your team. Could you share how this process typically works on your side?
Great phrases. And let's not forget, body language and tone also play a big role, especially in face-to-face or video calls.
Exactly. Keep your posture open, your voice steady, and your expressions calm. That helps de-escalate tension, even if the topic is tough.
So, what should you avoid in these situations? Try not to interrupt when someone is explaining their frustration. Use blaming language, like you should have or you didn't. Respond too quickly without listening fully. And if the issue can't be solved immediately, give a clear next step. Let me take this back to my team and we'll respond by tomorrow. Can we reconnect on this after reviewing the details internally? That shows leadership, even if you don't have all the answers yet.
Let's summarize the keys to handling misunderstandings and conflict. Stay calm and respectful. Use neutral, non-blaming language. Acknowledge the issue without attacking. Ask clarifying questions. Focus on solutions, not problems. Take responsibility when needed, and follow up with action.
Mastering these skills makes you not just a better communicator, but a better partner in business. People remember how you handle challenges more than how you handle success. Coming up in Part 6, we'll wrap up this topic with a powerful discussion: how to build long-term trust and maintain strong partnerships through consistent communication in English.
Part 6. Wrap up. Key phrases and mindset for long-term success. Over the past episodes, we've explored how to communicate professionally with business partners in English, from starting conversations, asking the right questions, to handling conflict with grace.
Today, let's wrap it all up by focusing on the language and mindset that will help you succeed not just in one conversation, but in long-term professional relationships.
Let's begin with key phrases, those go-to expressions that can make your communication smoother, more confident, and more collaborative.
Yes, let's break them into a few essential categories. 1. Building connection. Use these phrases to create trust and a positive tone from the start. It's great to connect with you. Thank you for taking the time today. I've heard great things about your team. We're looking forward to working together.
Small things like this help you start on the right foot and build rapport, especially in new partnerships. 2. Being clear and professional, whether you're giving updates, confirming plans, or making a request. Just to clarify, we'll be delivering the files by Friday, correct? Could you confirm the next steps from your side? We appreciate your patience as we finalize the report. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.
These help avoid confusion and show professionalism. Clarity builds trust.
3. Showing respect and openness. Great for situations where opinions differ or feedback is needed. That's an interesting point. Let's explore it further. We appreciate your perspective on this. Let's find a solution that works for both sides. I understand where you're coming from. Here's another idea to consider.
The tone here is key. You're not forcing anything, you're collaborating. That's how long-term trust is built.
4. Handling mistakes or setbacks, because things don't always go as planned. We take full responsibility for the delay. This was not our intention and we're working to correct it. We value this partnership and will do everything we can to make things right.
Owning mistakes with humility and action shows integrity. It turns short-term problems into long-term loyalty.
3. Closing on a positive note. Always finish meetings or calls on a strong professional tone. Thanks again for a productive discussion. We'll follow up by date with the details. We're excited about what's ahead. Looking forward to our next steps together.
These phrases may sound simple, but when used consistently, they send a powerful message. You're someone who communicates with clarity, kindness, and reliability. Brain. Now let's talk about mindset.
Having great phrases is helpful, but what really sets you apart is your mindset. Let's look at 3 key attitudes that drive long-term success.
Key 1. Think partnership, not transaction.
Treat every interaction as the start or continuation of a partnership, not just a deal. Be curious about your partner's goals, celebrate their wins, support them in challenges. People want to work with professionals who care, not just sell.
Key 2. Be proactive and reliable.
Don't wait for people to chase you. Send updates without being asked. Confirm deadlines. Follow through on your promises. These small habits show you're dependable, and over time, that builds deep trust.
Key 3. Keep growing.
Your English doesn't have to be perfect, but your effort to improve matters. Learn from every interaction. Ask for feedback. Practice speaking confidently, even if you make mistakes. That mindset of progress over perfection makes you more confident, more resilient, and more respected.
Final thoughts.
English is more than grammar or vocabulary. In the business world, it's about connecting, solving problems, and building something bigger than yourself, together.
So wherever you are on your journey, keep learning, keep speaking, keep showing up.
Use the tools you've learned in this podcast, review the key phrases, practice the mindset, and most importantly, believe that you can communicate powerfully in English. That brings us to the end of this episode and this powerful series on business English communication.
If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, English with Tuna. New podcast episodes are waiting for you every day to help you grow your English skills naturally and confidently.
And remember, progress starts with one conversation at a time. Let's keep growing together.
Thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode.